Alright guys, in this video we're going to talk a little bit about the squeeze and what to expect and how I'm going to play the volatility and what I'm thinking. And I don't really know exact numbers where I'm going to sell and all that good stuff because I'm waiting to see what happens. So again, this is exactly like the AMC situation, and there's a lot that we can learn from the AMC squeeze. The biggest difference with MULN is that the market cap is only 600 million right now, and maybe 700 million. And AMC was $12, was $6 billion when it closed. And so basically, like, if you just think about MULN going to $3, that's going to cause a lot of buying pressure. And when it happens, the market cap is only going to be $1.2 billion. Now, I don't know about you, but I know I'm not selling at $3. So who out there is going to sell at $3? Nobody. And so what happens when $1.2 billion tries to buy at $3, $4, $5? Over 1 or 2 days, $1 billion is going to try to hit MULN. We're going to see a jump to $10, $15, probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. But basically, if we look at the AMC squeeze, on Friday it closed at 1208. On Monday it was like 1348, maybe 30% gains or so. Not even. It was like 10 or 20%. Then Tuesday jumped up big, like 40-50%. Wednesday jumped up big. Thursday went from $30 to $36. Or no, $32 to $36. And then fell back down to $32. And then Friday, I want to say I remember, but let me double check. Let's see what happened. Make sure the data is correct. So, that's annoying. Okay. Alrighty, so Monday 1368, Tuesday 1641, Wednesday 1946. Right here. 1956, sorry. Thursday $26. Friday holds even. We saw a high of 36, a low of 24, and then hits even. But if you look at like, all right, so let's look at this. So Monday's close was 1368. The high was 1396. So it basically hit the high and then barely came down. The next day, 1667 was the high. We closed at 1641, basically the same price. Next day, 1995 was the high. We closed at 1956. Next day, 2976 was the high. We closed at 26. Then the next day, 36 was the high. We closed at 26. Then the next day, 33, 53, 3204. And so basically what we saw is we capped out at a price. We basically closed at that same price. And we had like what looked like the top. So a lot of people probably sold at $36 when they saw it drop from 36 to 24. And then close at 26. But there wasn't enough people that sold. And so because there wasn't enough people that sold and there's still too many buyers coming in for the squeeze, they had to keep going up so people would sell their position. So basically it closed at 26.12 with a big dip at the end of day Friday. And then after that we went to 33.55 and a 32.04. That's a strong support. And then from there it ran 100%, over 100% in a day. and then closed at 62.55, and then came back up to 68.80 and then closed at 51, and then came back to 57, closed at 47, then back to 59. And in this day, that if you looked right here, it went from 62.55 to 68.80. And in that day, it dropped to 37.66 and then climbed back up to 51.34, all in the same day. From the 68.80 to the 37.66, I made, for the 37.66, I turned $10,000 on AMC puts into $80,000. And so there is all this volatility you're seeing of massive swings throughout the days and all this crazy stuff. It's going to happen again in MULN, and I'm going to show you how to make profits off it on my YouTube Live. I'm going to be live streaming the squeeze. I have to. So, what can we learn from this? Well, this midday crash that we did see, it came a day after we saw the top of a crazy high number, right? So 32, everyone's wondering if it's the top, and then boom, all the way to 72 with the 62 close, and then it ran back up, but not to a new high. That's basically your signal that we're going to get a massive drop, but it's a fake drop, and they're going to have to still bring it back up so that they can keep messing with the price and keep getting retail to sell. The whole purpose of the squeeze is to get retail to sell the stock. Now, if we look at the 37.66 low that we saw, and we go back to the beginning of the squeeze, we ran all the way to a 36 high before we had a 30% dip to $26. And this 36 high and this 37 low right here is a pretty good sign of where they're going to send that price. So we're going to be looking for this pattern of when does it go from a 1956 type number to a 29 type number, and then fall to 26, and then have another big rally. And once it has that big rally, we're going to short that end of day Friday. So we're going to be long Friday morning going in. I'm going to skip this little dip right here. This 10% dip right here, I'm not even going to worry about it. This is going to be my signal that the next run is going to be followed by a 30% dip. And this is, I'm going to buy puts on here and cash out at this $26, $24. And then after that, I'm going to move my puts into calls and buy some stock. And then I'm going to be looking for a run up from this, but then also a big run up like we saw with the 72. And then I'm not going to play, that 72, yeah, so this was at 32.04, and then it opened at 37.52. It fell to 35.59, and then ran to 72, and then closed at 62. So what I will probably not do is I won't play this 72.62. I will wait to see this crash of 10% or so, and then when it comes back up and we don't hit that number from before, that's when I'm going to take my money and I'm going to buy these puts. That's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm looking for it to get close to this number, and then we hit this number. But this is the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about and stuff that I'm going to be doing on my live stream and going over. Hopefully I'll be able to take phone calls as well. And the goal is, by playing all the volatility to come, that we use our massive profits that we got from the original options, and that we continue to get from puts and calls throughout the volatility, and just keep buying more stock, and see how high we can send the MULN stock price. If we all do this together, plus the FOMO coming in, plus the diamond handers that just buy and hold, and they want to hold to 100, like all three groups together can make a beautiful thing happen. There's sky's the limit for our price. There is no limit to what we could see. I'm getting more money. So I bought like 3,000 options today, maybe 2,000, but I have a total of like 6,500, no, 7,000 contracts. And I'm going to be rolling those out when it hits $3-4. I'm going to roll those out to $10 strikes, and I'm going to have hopefully 20 to 30,000 contracts, which represents 2 to 3 million shares. And then I'm looking for MULN to hit probably. I mean, again, I'm going to be looking at these patterns, but I'm looking for MULN to hit $20-30 before I take major profits. Honestly, so here's the other thing. This should be where, like, we see the 29, and then we see the close come down 10%, and we lose a lot of our gains, and then we rally up big. That should be the sign to buy puts, and I'm going to take probably half my money right here, buy puts, and then when it drops to this $26 or $24, whatever I cash out at the end of day Friday for this week, that's when I take my first profits. So right here, with these puts, I'm gonna 5x my money when it drops from $20 to $12, and it's gonna have half of my call option profit. So if I have 2 million shares, it runs to 20. I'll make $20 million. I'm gonna put $10 million into the puts, have $10 million still on the calls, and I'm going to wait for the calls to gain 100% value to cash out $20 million of profit, or I'm going to wait for my puts to make 5x on their money when it drops 30%, and then I'm going to cash out $40-50 million. And then the other $40-50 million I'm going to throw back into calls and stock. Most likely 50-50. And so the end goal of this is, if we do a good job and we buy enough stock and we push the price higher, what we're going to eventually see is we'll hit a peak price. Like, honestly, MULN does have long-term value. So like, if I have $100 million in stock, I'm not really worried about that dropping to $50 million of stock. Like, I can afford to take that loss at this point because I'm already taking out profits, and so all this stock that I'm buying is just going to be gravy on top, and for the purpose of seeing a much, much higher stock price. And if the worst case scenario is I see a 50% decline, and then next year it starts running again once they're selling cars and stuff, like, I'm okay with that. But the market cap is still going to be tiny compared to, I mean, not tiny, but it's not going to be bigger than any of its competition. That's for sure. Like, it's not going to be more than 20 billion if it drops by 50% when have so much shares already, type thing. Anyways, what we made, like, the sign to see that we got them again. Like, we already seen the sign, the AMC signs showing we got them right now, and we're going to make a lot of money next week. But if we get them again after they get retail to sell, and we back up the float, and we make sure that we still own the float, what we should expect, like what I'm expecting to see, is what happened with GameStop. And basically we're going to see 10, 15, 20 halts in a week, and we're going to see the price decrease by 50 to 60%, and then they're going to do another squeeze. That's what happened with GameStop. It squoze in January, and then it squoze in February. And basically, for 2 weeks, they crashed GameStop 90% of its value, and then they let it run again when everyone bought the dip. And that could happen again. And basically, once they let it squeeze the second time, and then they halted it 20 times to, like, completely discourage retail, because every time they halt it, any order that you had placed gets removed, and so, like, you got to come back to the market. So, like, if you're working and stuff, like, the halts can really screw you. But basically, after they started halting it 20 times for a week or two, it dropped the price by a good chunk, and then it rallied up another 200%. And so That's another thing I'll be looking for. But that is basically all I got to talk about the squeeze, about my live YouTube, what you can expect, and where my head's at, and how to analyze the numbers to see what numbers you're comfortable with shooting for when you play the call-in options, call-in puts with me, or when you buy the stock and you cash some out and you wait to buy a dip, so you can increase your number of shares. They're all good. Good luck, people. Monday can't come fast enough. If it's a proper MULN day, what we'll see is we open up 10-20% for the first hour or so, and then we hit XXX% gains, and we go to $3 or $4, and then probably Tuesday just see a massive rip to $10. We'll see.